Mino Line Media presents the Business First Podcast.
Hi, all, and welcome to a new episode of Business First with Sonia Aline. I am your host. I'm excited to introduce you to Mr. Robert Blackwell Jr., who is the head of Quant16, a 25-year-old digital solutions company, and Killerspin, which is a world leader in premium table tennis equipment. And separately, he and a group of Black men have formed Tesk.love. TESK is an acronym for the Entrepreneurial Saving Cities, a program designed to get corporate and governmental organizations to actively engage in business transactions with Black businesses. Why this is important and how this program could transform economic progress for the Black community is what we are going to talk about today. Welcome, Robert. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Well, one of the reasons I'm really excited to talk to you about your businesses, but also your mindset about what Tesk.love could do for the Black community. And I love your idea of just do business. And so if you could talk to us a little bit about why you formed Tesk.love and why you think this is a very different program from a number of the programs that have existed that quote unquote support Black business and drive economic progress in our community.
Well, one, thanks for having me. I appreciate this. Anybody who wants to listen to me bark about why I care about Black people. So look, I think if we go back and look in time, if we go back to the Black Wall Streets, which was actually the height of Black business participation in the country, what I think is we need a modern version of the Black Wall Streets. So I kind of describe myself as an unemployable math misfit. So I went to school, studied math, but I'm also kind of a big fan of history and economics. So if we go back, if you ask yourself the question, where in the world are poor people healthy, educated, and safe? Conversely, where affluent people, regardless of their race, not healthy, educated, and safe? I think the answer is nowhere. So therefore, the issue is, what do we do about poverty in our community? There's some Marcus Aurelius, who was the emperor of Rome, and a famous Stoic philosopher said, poverty is the mother of crime. So if you think about crime, especially violent crime, for the most part, it is a combination of poverty and testosterone. Can't do much about testosterone. But what do we do about poverty? There's only one way out of poverty, and that is entrepreneurial participation in the modern parts of the economy that create wealth. That creates two things. Out of that comes the appreciation of education and social capital. Social capital is when you reach back and you pull people from your community along, but more importantly, you create an aspirational roadmap for your young people so they know where to place their bets. So the issue that we have in our community is, especially Black boys never see Black men doing anything except entertaining people. So therefore, the market tells them, place your bets on sports and other forms of entertainment. So that's why if you ask the question to anybody, name two famous Black entrepreneurs that would be nationally known with no connection to sports or entertainment. Not one person can answer that. I've asked it a few thousand times over the last 20 years. Not one person has ever been able to answer that question. So why does that matter? Because the market tells Black kids, place your bets on sports and entertainment. That's where the market evidence is. So that's where they place their bets. So unfortunately for our people, Black people get lots of lectures and no money. So if we go back and look at what I call diversity, equity, and illusion, we get, again, all the blame and no benefit. Where's all the money from this corporate and government goodwill, so much we love the people money? If it were the case that people were doing business with Black people, it would be reflected in our businesses. So I did a study of the 2010 census, and if you take all the revenue by by all the revenue by company, by ethnicity, with employees, these are the numbers. Majority-owned companies, 9.4 trillion. Women, a trillion. Asians, 455 billion. Hispanics, 276 billion, and blacks, 98 billion. Even though blacks have double the educational achievement as Hispanics on average. So, and that number is not even a real number. It's mostly a fake pass-through number where corporations want to get credit for doing business with Black people, so they pass through big numbers. So again, this is why we're poor. Anywhere where you have poverty, you have crime. That is not something unique to Black people. Poor Black people commit crime, poor white people commit crime, poor Mexican and Filipino and Russians, they all create crime, especially males between their teens until they run out of testosterone in their early 30s. So it is the focus on social capital. And what I believe is what we need, what I call the fourth great American movement. So the first movement was the founding of the Republic, which was the first country that was built around the government serving the people, not the people being indigent servants to a ruling class. Then it was the abolition of slavery. They tend to happen once a century. So what most people don't know is there was a Black man named James Forten, who was one of the richest people in Philadelphia in the late 1700s, who was a primary funder of the abolitionist movement. Almost nobody knows that. So then, after the abolition of slavery, came Jim Crow. So the next movement was the One Set of Rules movement, or otherwise known as the Civil Rights Movement. That was, there shouldn't be a different set of rules for Black people and white people. So what I believe is that Martin Luther King, specifically and others, talked about the American dream. I believe the religion of the United States is America. More than Christianity, it's America. Americans believe if you just do your best, everybody has an opportunity to be successful. There is no other country with a dream associated with its name. So therefore, if you're not successful, you're just lazy. That's what people believe. So what Martin Luther King wanted to show, I believe, is showing on television what was happening in the South. You know, you had ladies and their Sunday wear walking, and they weren't asking for anything. They weren't acting like hoodlums. They were just saying, we want the same rights as everybody else. Nothing special, just the same. Now, Martin Luther King also famously, he wrote a book that says, Why We Can't Wait. He wrote that in 1965. And in that book, he said, of the good things, they used to call us Negroes. Of the good things, the Negro has half. Of the bad, he has a double share. And in the 59 years since he said that, nothing has changed. Black people are still at the bottom of everything economically and at the top of everything when it comes to misery. So what I believe is that we need what I call the fourth great American movement. And that is a movement of people of goodwill dedicated to proving that the free enterprise system works for everybody. So in 2009, I did a tour of India. I got invited by the ambassador after Barack was elected. I got invited to do a tour of India, and I met with somebody in the central bank, and they said in 1991 they got a new finance minister. They decided that they were going to free their economy, and their government started doing business with their small entrepreneurs, which prepared them for the international market, And then US business just did business with capable Asian entrepreneurs. And in a period of 20 years, India and China took 750 million people out of poverty. Well, what happened to Black people with all the diversity love in the air? Black people went deeper into poverty. So I believe that my generation, and I was born in 1960, has done nothing to pull the next generation forward. We've been living off the work of our parents and grandparents. So therefore, I think we owe it to those people that came before us to do something for the people that are going to come after us. And that is in this by people just doing business with us. When people do business with a Black entrepreneur in proportion to their talent, all the problems of crime and misery and everything else that we have will go away. Wealthy Black people kind of do okay. Michael Jordan is Black, and his kids, they're healthy as their behavior, they're safe because you can't get near them, and they're as educated as they decide to be.
So, and you said a lot there. One of the things that is concerning is when you look at the India and China example. I had heard in another interview that you had done. In 20 years, they were able to take roughly 750 million people out of poverty.
Correct.
When you talked about Black Wall Street, you talked about, again, at a time when we had all of the laws restricting us from doing all sorts of things, we were able to build that within a 10-year period.
Correct.
With all of the education, all of the technological support, with all of the DEI support, which we're now fighting to keep. We're worried about losing DEI in corporations. We're worried about losing affirmative action in our schools. So there's an active energy, an active group of people fighting to keep those things in place. Why are we still in the same place from the civil rights movement with all of these things that should have been in place to be able to move us economically forward?
Okay. So I want to, let's use an example. Do you have kids?
I do.
Okay, great. Let's imagine the following. You and I were at a restaurant. I lose my wallet and I need $20 to get a cab to go home. Would you give me the $20?
I would.
Okay, terrific. Now, I have a daughter that I want to send to Harvard, and it's going to cost $70,000 a year. Now, I reach out and say, Sonia, my daughter wants to go to Harvard. It's going to cost $70,000 a year. Will you give me the $300,000 it's going to take me to send my daughter to Harvard? Now, what's your answer?
I would if I had it.
Okay. Yeah. No. The thing is.
So that would be the problem.
Okay. Right. Well, the real answer is I got my own kids to feed.
Right.
So my $20, the $20 is not going to affect your lifestyle.
Right.
It's
right.
charity. You can afford to give me charity because you don't have to give up anything. It's meaningless. So your lifestyle is not going to change based on the $20 you give me. It is going to change based on the $300,000. Okay, so therefore, your kids come before my kids. Doesn't make you bad. That's how the world works. So, what we've been doing, unfortunately, we never measure anything. So, in the 40 years of diversity, equity, and illusion, where's the money? Where's the money? There is no money because corporate marketing costs nothing. We love the people speeches cost nothing. Black people get a lot of lectures and no money. Where other people are not asking you to help them, they're saying, give me money and I'll take care of myself. So when it comes to Black people, and what I think the issue that we have here, when people talk about things like white privilege and things like that, I think there's no such thing as white privilege. There is the lack of disadvantage. If you're white, you don't have to prove you're not a moron. If just being white meant you were wealthy and you wake up in the morning and people throw money at you, then everybody in the Appalachian Mountains would be driving Mercedes. They're not. So, what is different about us is that neither whites nor Asians nor anybody else but us has to prove they're not a moron. You know, if you're somebody else, they give you the benefit of the doubt. If you're black and you're trying to do business, which is how not only you feed your family, but how you hire people in your own community, how you invest in that community, you get lots of lectures. Like, we've got a diversity program for you to go through that'll teach you how to be an adult. But what we did was we're giving some money to some inner city programs. Aren't you happy about that? Well, what is an inner city program? What's the definition of inner city program? I call it a little black kid program. What I say, if little black parents had some little green bills, they take care of their own little black kids just like everybody else. So what we've been asking for is charity. Charity are the crumbs of other people's success. But if you look at any movement that black people have, we've benefited, the entrepreneur was behind it. James Fortin was an entrepreneur that funded the abolitionist movement. Madam C.J. Walker, who was the first female millionaire of any race, funded the civil rights movement. And in 1895, Booker T. Washington gave a speech at the Atlanta Exposition where he said, essentially, America's never going to be what it can be until blacks get included in the economy. We will be either a third of the progress, or we will be more than a third of the crime and misery and everything else. So there was a man named Julius Rosenwald, who was the CEO of Sears, who responded to Booker T. Washington. He wasn't prescriptive. And together, Julius Rosenwald, really rich, put up 30% of the money, and black people and white people of goodwill had to put up 70% of the money to build those 5,300 schools in the South, which is how black people got educated. Black people had to build those schools, which is how we became the tradespeople of the South. So, and out of that came the Black Wall Streets, where there were these relatively prosperous 81 black communities all across the Jim Crow South. So Booker T. Washington, and I believe he was correct, while he said all the benefits of citizenship should belong to us. However, it's more important to have a trade than to go to the theater. Once you built the economic foundation, you hire your own people, you train your own people, you inspire your own people. That is what happened in the Black Wall Street. They were led by black entrepreneurs. The civil rights movement was paid by black entrepreneurs who funded Martin Luther King. And then, in my own case, Barack Obama, who's our president, who's from Chicago, like me, there was a lot of black entrepreneurs that supported Barack in the beginning before other people knew who he was. So if we want, in my view, it's not just for us, but I believe America's never going to reach its potential until black people get included in the economy, and not through charity and not through lectures and not even through education. When black people have money, they educate their own kids. They pay property taxes that go to the schools, and they hire the teachers. So it is within our capability to not only lift our own people out of misery, but to make the country a better place. And I think especially for black men, it is our responsibility to provide a pathway of prosperity for our people. And if we don't, I believe God's going to punish us for that. So anyway, that's my little rant.
Right. No, it's they're important perspectives. So is it test.love? Do you feel like that will be, or is that the intention for that to be the economic driver for this fourth pillar that we need to create, this economic driver?
The idea is just do business. Do business with people that are ready to do business. Right. There is no lack of talent in the black community. there's a lack of opportunity to demonstrate value. Now, those people who are making I would say, the anti-Black rant now, which says anybody that's Black who got something got it because of some diversity program. So therefore, you're discriminating against white people. So I would love for somebody to show me what part of the country are white people or anybody else not doing better than Black people. Just one place. One place where Black people do business in proportion to their talent. There is not one place in this country where that is the case. So therefore, we have to tell people what's in it for them. Americans love America. They're afraid of losing America. The reason why President Trump is so popular is because he said, this is the best place ever. This is America, and we're going to make America great again. And people, why do people respond to that? It's because that is their religion. They'll give up Christianity before they give up the belief in America. We're somebody special. We're a special people, is what he's saying. And we got to protect that. So for us, Black people are part of this country. The country will be better when we participate in the economy in proportion to our talent. The other is, I think we almost never fight back with this nonsense. So I don't know if you've ever seen Vivek Ramaswamy. He's a Indian guy who's a Republican.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you read what he says, we've got to get back. America was built on the equality of opportunity, not the equality of outcomes. So I was like, hey, I want to know when that happened for us. So if you ask yourself the question, who's really got more opportunity? The son of a billionaire who spent his whole life partying, dropped out of school, is a party boy, or a poor kid, doesn't matter what race they are. Somebody from one of our people from urban America, or one of their people from rural America. Let's say they got Einstein's intellect, they work like a pig, and they have great character. Who really has more opportunity? There's a saying that your network is your net worth. And that is real. In fact, in my own case, IBM, my father was a manager in IBM for 25 years. IBM had a very strict no nepotism rule. It means you can't hire your family. Except everybody in my family worked at IBM. The deal was you hire my kids, I hire your kids. Right. It is your social networks that determine how well you would be, that you're going to do. It tells young people where to place their bets, right, so that they prepare themselves for those opportunities, which is when people are talking about education. If you don't believe that schooling is your ticket to prosperity, you're not going to put that much effort in it, and it doesn't matter how many resources you put into it. Listen, poor Black people become great athletes, and where they start off on dirt roads and basketball courts with no nets. Now, later, once people discover them, then there's more resources. Sports is a poor person's industry for the most part. Poor people place their bets on sports. That's why if you cannot find, it's almost impossible to find a community. Let's take India or China. Can you name one Chinese athlete or one Indian athlete?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I'm the worst person to ask about sports.
Okay, but you get the point. Yeah, neither can anybody else. But if I were to say, if you follow basketball at all, right, somebody will follow basketball. Obviously, if I say Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, 100 other names, people
even
know who
they are. Even if you don't follow sports, you still know who those people are. Yeah.
Now, there is a group of people. So You can take the NBA and break it into these categories. Black people and Serbians. So why are there so many Serbians? Out of A Serbian's been the MVP in the last 3 out of the
Wow.
last 4 years.
Okay.
A lot of the top players now are Serbians. Why? Because that's a poor country. You do not see lots of Swiss athletes, basketball players, Norwegian basketball players,
Yeah.
Japanese basketball players. You don't find athletes, except in golf and tennis and some of those things, coming. Why are there so many Dominicans? That little island that's smaller than Chicago, why are there so many Dominicans? Because young people see that as their opportunity. Their parents see it as their opportunities.
Right.
Other people aren't willing to make the bet. They say, no, you're going to study 7 hours a day.
Right.
Our people, poor people, will practice basketball, football, other stuff 7 hours a day. It takes a lot of work to be any kind of professional, but you put in the work where you see the market evidence. That's why it's important for us to get people to just do business with people that are ready to do business, and then we will take care of ourselves.
How do you expect your program to inspire other programs across the United States who are in the communities and hoping to support Black business? Like, what are we doing wrong based on this new platform that you're not necessarily based on what we're doing wrong, but what would you suggest that people start retraining themselves to see or do to make an
Okay.
impact in their community?
All right. Let's pretend that I were a bodybuilder
Mm-hmm.
from Chicago. Now, suppose I could go back to being 23 and I wanted to be a bodybuilder. And let's say that a friend of mine from Korea wanted to be a bodybuilder. Another friend of mine from Switzerland wanted to be a bodybuilder. And another friend of mine from Nigeria wanted to be a bodybuilder. Um, every one of us would have to do the exact same thing. If we wanted to be a professional bodybuilder, you work out like crazy, lift heavy weights, take steroids. That's exactly what every one of them does. The formula works the same for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So they're principles. The principle is you cannot have a business without a customer. I don't care how smart you are, how prepared you are, you cannot have a business without a customer. And local businesses, uh, I'm trying to think, what city do you live in?
In New York City,
Okay,
Brooklyn.
okay. You live in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm in Chicago. I'm trying to, okay. Here. How many people that live in the Hamptons do you think work in the Hamptons?
Yeah, very few.
Nobody. That's
Right.
the answer.
Yeah.
If you work in the Hamptons, you work at one of the hotels, one of the grocery
Right.
stores.
Yeah. Or you're cleaning homes.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
The people in the Hamptons made their money on Wall Street in New York primarily, or
Mm-hmm.
they're other kind of business people, or maybe they inherited the money. But they did not make their money from working in the Hamptons. But the magic solution for Black people is what kind of neighborhood businesses can we put that are going to magically create jobs for people? Okay, what kind of jobs are those? What kind of jobs are grocery store jobs? Now, some of them, if you're a manager or something like that, you can make a good living.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, Nobody that works in a grocery store that they don't own can afford to live in the Hamptons or any other wealthy neighborhood.
Right.
So for us, we never look and see what are other people doing to be successful, and let's follow the model.
And let's follow the model. Right.
That's it. Apply it to us, but let's find the model and follow the model. And I think we don't do enough of that. So at the end of the day, what difference does it make if you practice skiing in Jamaica? There's no market.
Right.
There are no customers. You can have the world's best CD business. There's no customers. So what can I do to train you to run a CD business? Nothing.
Nothing.
We need to train our people how to think. And if you train your people how to think, too often we teach people what to do and not how to think.
Okay.
You have to think about business as solving an emotional or financial problem that somebody's willing to pay for which they will give you more money than it costs you to deliver. That's the essence of business. And if we go back and look at the civil rights movement, what went faster, the changing of the laws or the bus boycott? The bus boycott.
Yeah.
Because in that case, white people care about their money more than their racism.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that case, those bus company drivers said, we're losing money. Those colored people are on our buses and they're paying us money.
Yeah.
That's why that worked relatively quickly. And I happen to believe, I would say it's an amalgamation of what several people have believed. I'd say Booker T. Washington was certainly one of them. Frederick Douglass, like when somebody asked Frederick Douglass, what can we do to help you? He said, you've helped enough already. What did Malcolm X? Malcolm X said that there's a fight between liberals and conservatives. Black people have essentially can make the difference.
Right.
That's right. Democrats can't win without black people. Right. Republicans think all you colored people are already with, it's no use us talking to you. People vote their interest. Now, what I think we have to do is, now Martin Luther King, there was a famous interview that he gave with Harry Belafonte. The year he died, not long before he died, where he said that we've got to shift our focus. And what he said was, while the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act were necessary, they did nothing to help black people come out of poverty.
Right.
Black people vote, and we still get nothing.
Yeah.
Why is that? It's because voting, we live in a republic. It's a democratic republic, a constitutional republic. The democracy protects the majority. The republic protects the minority. If it was just everybody, the majority got to vote on everything, black people might still be slaves. So it's not just that. I think we got to work backwards from blacks living in dignity. Why in this country can't black people live in dignity? You cannot, listen, you can't be a man if you have to beg another man for what he has. All we want is an equal opportunity to demonstrate value, because we have plenty of talent in our country. But we have to demand that we get more money and fewer lectures, because we got lots and lots of programs and no money. So,
yeah. Want to delve a little bit back into your background. You have an interesting background. I saw in some other interviews where you talked about your mom went to school with Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
Your dad, as you mentioned, even in this interview, he was one of the first African Americans hired in the Midwest by IBM.
Yep.
And your grandfather was the first African American that was accepted into UPenn, but he couldn't attend because he had to take care of his ailing dad. Or
Well,
his dad had
his father
passed
died.
away. Yeah, and so he had to help take care of the family.
Yeah, so he had to take care of the family.
Right, and ended up working as a janitor.
He was a janitor. He worked 3 jobs. He worked as a janitor. He got dressed to go to work every day. He tutored my father in Latin and geometry.
Incredible.
So when people talk about kind of our situation, listen, my father didn't have to go through the drama that his father went through, who didn't have to go through the drama that his father went through. I certainly didn't have to go through the drama that my father had to go through, even though I had my own drama, because we're part of the desegregation generation.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved to Chicago from Wichita, Kansas, and I grew up in all black neighborhoods, and I thought my life was good. So my mother was 20 and my father was 23 when I was born. And I say my family had no dough. We had no money, but I had parents that were educated, more than schooled. They were schooled, but more than that, they were educated and they were people of good character. In fact, even though both my parents are very pro-black, my father, who was created lots of opportunity for women and black people, that was a focus of his. But he helped anybody. So kind of our philosophy is you don't have to hate anybody else to love your own people.
Right.
But somebody's got to love our people. And love is a verb, it's not a feeling. You can't be a father if you go and say, "Oh, I love you," and you come visit you. In fact, I remember once I was in a car wash
Mm-hmm.
on the west side of Chicago, where our people live, and a guy came in. So I was getting my car washed, and the guy came in. He said he just got out of jail, and the first thing he was going to do is going to make a baby. And I wasn't smart enough to know better, but I said, "What did you say?" He said, "Yeah, man, I'm going to make myself another baby." I said, "How many kids you got?" He said, "I got 6." I said, "You got out of jail. You're going to go make another child, and you got 6. Where do they live?" "Oh, with my, with their mothers." And he said, "What's wrong?" I go visit them, and I said, "Who's there when they're crying and scared and need somebody to take up for them? Where are you?" So I think it is part of the challenge that we have is young black boys never see black men doing anything except entertaining people. So one of the things, I started a company called Urban Fishing Development. When I was 34, I sold a company, and it's part of Chicago. It was on the south side of Chicago. It was full of public housing. The government started to tear down the public housing. And while everybody thought we needed racial integration, I thought we needed economic integration.
So you
So
believed that for a long time.
Listen,
I
I
would
would say,
understood that for a long time.
yeah. So if I would listen to that time where I was, Muhammad Ali, who that's my parents' generation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's where they're saying black people have a right to live in dignity. So why can't we live amongst ourselves? I grew up in black neighborhoods,
Right.
and I thought my life was okay. We didn't have a lot of money, but I had my family. Okay, we lived in Wichita, Kansas. My mother's family is from Louisville, Kentucky. My father's from Philadelphia. They all lived in black neighborhoods. And my parents were just fine with me walking to school at 4 years old. That's when I started kindergarten, 4 years old. They weren't worried about me. Not that these things were perfect, but
the community was
self-sustaining. They were much more economically balanced at that time. Not perfect. There was drama. I was a little kid, so I didn't know. But, like every place, there's drama. But we felt safe. It wasn't until I got to the outside world that I started to feel not a human being. When I moved to Chicago and I got a bomb thrown in my house and "nigga go home" written on my lawn, that's the kind of stuff my generation had to deal with because we were part of the desegregation generation. So then what I believed was, if we could, other people that were my age who were about to have children, be married, that happens around that age, who can now afford to buy houses, if I built houses that looked like they belonged in wealthier neighborhoods, and they could be convinced that this was a transitional neighborhood, it would solve a financial problem, but also it would solve an emotional problem. I got all this drama at work. I have to listen to a bunch of stupid stuff. And we've all had to listen to it. Like when I was a trader at the Mercantile Exchange, and somebody said to me once, "You're smart, you're honest, you work hard, you got a lot of white qualities." Wow. So this is the kind of stuff that we had to listen to, and it was new, but it was constant. It wasn't calling you nigger all the time, but it was something different. But it was still a drama that you had to go through. And it was so much drama, my sister, we had to send her back to Kansas because it was just constant drama. And if I wasn't able to fight and defend myself, I would have been a victim. So therefore, I thought, if we can create an economically integrated Black neighborhood, life would be better for everybody. So I bought a bunch of land, I built houses, I named them all after famous Black people. And then, now that neighborhood is what I envisioned. Right. It's an economically integrated Black neighborhood, and things are better for everybody. So what I think is, we have a responsibility not to leave our people in misery, the misery that they're in. And the only way we're going to do that is not asking other people to help us, because charity are the crumbs of other people's success. You will never see a billionaire give up his money to go help somebody else. Now they will happily, if you're a billionaire, and right, you got $100 million worth of income in a year, and you can write off a $5 million donation to a not-for-profit, and then you can stand in front of a school with some little Black kids and say, "We love the people." Now, what they never do is to show you, "Hey, let me go help somebody." I had a friend, not a Black guy, who made gazillions of dollars. And he said, "I've been really lucky. I've made a lot of money. I want to go be helpful to the colored people." Obviously, he didn't say it like that.
But I know where you're going.
I want to go help the kids.
Right.
She said, "What do you think I should do? Give money to a school or something?" I said, "Why don't you make a Black one of you?" Now, when it comes to us, they want to help kids. Right. What they want to do is to fund some program and to help the people that are hardest to help. Now, conversely, if they want to go invest in their own young people, with us, they'll go to the most challenged areas. But when it comes to their people, they go to Harvard and Yale and pull them out of there. They don't go to the trailer park. So what I'm saying, we have everything with us is backwards. If we focus on participating in the modern parts of the economy that create wealth in proportion to our talent, we win, the country wins.
Right. So the love portion of the of TESC, does that go back to love is an action word? Is that why you is that part of the
Yes.
the
So I wrote a series of after the whole George Floyd incident happened. When that happened, criminals of multiple races went and burned down every grocery store and every pharmacy in black neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I said is, if love is a verb, it's what you do. So the point is, you can't love your kids and not feed them. That's a worthless emotion. So I said, if you want, now here's what the black people did in a group. We went over, took the little money we had, we fed people, we've helped people, other people threw money to organizations.
Right.
So I said, if you want to help somebody, go buy something from somebody. Do something productive. Your feelings, your sympathy is not helping anybody. You can't eat sympathy.
Right.
So the whole love is a verb is it's what you do. So like you can't say, hey, I know my husband loves me, uh, but he's got a Ferrari and we got no food.
Right.
But he tells me he loves me.
Right.
No, that's sympathy. We need less sympathy and more money.
Want to get into the your other companies, or actually, we talked about your program. We haven't talked about the companies, but Killer Spin is fascinating because that is a global company, a table tennis equipment company. What was the inspiration to start a table tennis company?
So in 2000, Chicago had something called the Ping Pong Festival. I was a trader. I thought the stock market was going to go bad. We had no relationships in the public sector. So I decided that we were going to sponsor the Ping Pong Festival. So we took $100,000 and we sponsored the Ping Pong Festival. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't go to parties. I don't even know how to talk if it's not the business. I am barely useful. I'm a barely useful super introvert. In fact, if I didn't have to eat, I'd be like that guy in The Beautiful Mind, stuck in my bedroom with writing on walls.
I can tell
But
by your background.
for me, I don't smoke cigars. I can't go and network with people, and I don't golf. So what I said is, we have no relationships. We're going to sponsor this table tennis festival. They asked me to be the chairman. And then when I went around, there were just lines of people to play. Whenever there were tables out, there were just lines of people to play. So I started to get this, what I call this entrepreneurial itch. So I was talking to one of our interns. This was in late 2001. And I said, I think I'm going to start a table tennis company. So I had the idea for really two things. So there's two things about me, two really important things my father told me, other than don't piss off your mother or you'll be in trouble. That was the big warning. But he said, the only thing you have in life is your name. You can always make more money back, but you can never get your name back. So don't screw that up. The other thing he told me was, he said, I may not be the best in the world at anything, but if I give 100%, I'll be in the top 5%. So I have a personal drive to be the best in the world at something. If I could be the world's best garbage man, I'd go work on a garbage truck, because that's my internal drive for two reasons. One is, I believe it is important for Black men to demonstrate extreme competence. that other young black men can see and follow. So I was inspired, frankly, by Muhammad Ali and a lot of people from that area who formed my opinion of black people. So back to Killer Spin. I said, everybody knows what table tennis is, or ping pong, as most people call it. And in fact, my own story was when I was young, that is what I did with my father. My father bought a table tennis table and he played with me. So I would always tell people the story about, yeah, me and my father played table tennis together, and those are the memories that I have of him. And then one day my father said, hey, man, I got to talk to you. He said, I got to tell you the truth about this table tennis thing. He said, the truth is, your mother said to me, I know you're busy and you're focused on your career, but don't forget you have a son. So don't be a bum and spend time with your son. So, not wanting to be on the bad side of my mother, figuring out what he could do that was convenient for him and he could show her. He bought a table tennis table. He went and played table tennis with me sometimes. But those are the memories that I had with my father. So, I started to look at table tennis and I said two things. Everybody knows table tennis or ping pong in the world, but nobody can name the name of a brand. And also, black people don't own anything in sports. Okay, so that's my little mau about black people and money. So I said, black people don't own anything in sports. I'm going to start a table tennis company and we're going to pick an area where we can be the best in the world. So, what Killer Spin really did was we tried to figure out what emotional or financial problem we could solve for people. So, the emotional problem was we looked at skateboarding and said, which was a $6 billion industry. And I said, that's a board with some rollers. What problem is it solving for who? So I said, it's the two kids. Kids that are too fat, too short, too skinny, too scared. These are people that don't have the body types to go play professional sports. So if I could put the stud factor in table tennis, I would give them the excuse to go and be connected to us. So I thought about the personification of a brand. So we have to have a brand that's sexy, edgy, but not offensive. So the personification of our brand was Bruce Lee, James Bond, and Laura Croft. So essentially, we said we are going to be the leading company in the world in creating table tennis themed experiences. We're going to own the high end of the market. We're essentially going to be the Porsche of table tennis. We're going to build content that ESPN will want to show. And then people that love table tennis will connect to our brand because they think we take care of the sport that they love and that they want dignity. So therefore, we created the high end of the market. We got known all over the world. We produced all the table tennis for years for ESPN. And it helped us to connect to customers in a way that nobody else could. So that is table tennis. So what we're focused on now is we call this unplug and play movement. So the unplug and play movement is about connecting to the people that you love and that need your love through break time play. So it's you think about Killer Spin as love and money. Love is your family and friends, money is your customers, employees.
Right. Wow. Well, thank you so much for, you need your own show. You know that you have a lot of content, you have a lot of great stories, you have a lot of ideas that really push people to think differently and and move differently. How can people, and so I would usually say support. You're forcing me to rethink my words now, but how can people engage with your organization so that they can either be a part of this movement or better engage where they are? How can people follow you, support you, or connect with what you're doing?
So what I would say is two things. I am a person that just happens to feel a debt to the people that came before me and a belief that our country will be better when our people do better. So really what you can do, Task is more of a movement. It's not a not-for-profit. We don't ask anybody for money. What you can do is if you buy something from somebody, ask them how much business you're doing directly with black people. Not how much money you're doing as giving as a subcontractor to somebody, because that's a scam for the most part. How much business are you doing with Black people in the modern parts of the economy, like tech, legal, financial services, where all the money is? How much business are you doing with them? If you live in a city, ask them the question and ask your friends to ask them the question. And then if they say, well, we don't know where they are, then go to Tess Scott Love, send me an email, I'll help.
Right.
But at the end of the day, this is not about me.
Right.
This is about how we are going to help our people get out of the misery that we're in.
Yeah. It's changing the mindset, of where we've been.
Well, listen, it's not the mindset. The mindset, it's what you do. A mindset is what you think about.
Right.
Get up and go do something.
Do something. Just do business. Yeah.
There you go.
Just do business. Thank you so much, Robert, for being here. Like I said, I could have easily, I'm trying to be mindful of the time because I know you've spent a lot of time with us here. You could have easily been here for another hour. At least I could have been listening. I don't know if you would have been, but I could have been.
I love talking to you, by the way.
I greatly appreciate you spending the time here. We look forward to hearing how this movement is progressing, and at some point would love to have you back.
Listen, I am happy to come back anytime. I just can't do it before next week.
Right. Okay. That works. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you all for listening. We'll be back again next week with another great guest. Take care.
Thanks so much.
The Business First podcast is hosted and produced by Sonia Aline. Executive producer Ken Johnson. Find the Business First podcast on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcast. On social media on IG at business_first_podcast. Follow the Mean Old Line Media Podcast Network on IG at Mean Old Line Media. Get the Mean Old Line Media app in the App Store or Google Play. The Business First Podcast is a Mean Old Line Media production.